Hi, my name is Wesley, and I'm 32 years old. I'm going to tell you about the story of betrayal that I suffered at the hands of my own family, the people I trusted more than anyone in this world. I've been married to my wife, Stacy, for 8 years. We have a 3-year-old daughter too. Our circumstances were not really good though. We were in a bind financially and had to work really hard and do everything I could to keep things going. It was not like I was unemployed. I had a stable job in a finance company, but my position was not really that high and my salary barely covered my family's expenses. I've been doing the job for almost 10 years now, and there was no growth for me. I'd never been promoted, and I never received any sort of an increment in my salary. In the beginning, it was enough for me, since it used to be only me and Stacy at home. But then our daughter came along and the expenses multiplied by a lot. It was getting really difficult day by day. And moreover, Stacy didn't have a job. She had a valid degree in computer science and had the potential to get a good job if she wanted to, but she refused to work. In my opinion, men should be doing that work, she used to say. I have already so much to take care of. How do you expect me to manage a career too? Her outdated belief baffled me a lot. But then again, who was I to judge her? Maybe she was right. She must have a lot of housework, even though I helped her out in whichever way I could. I couldn't really say anything in this matter, because I already stressed enough as it was. I didn't want an argument with Stacy when she was trying her best too. Sometimes I wondered why she married someone like me. We used to go to the same college, and I clearly remembered that she was pretty popular. A lot of guys liked her, guys who were better than me in most ways. So it really came as a surprise to me when she approached me first. When I asked about this to Stacy after our marriage, she just shrugged. You may not have been popular, but you were studying finance and you had better career prospects than others, she said. And you have a good personality. So all in all, you were decent enough for me to marry. I didn't know if I should have been happy or offended by this. At one hand, it felt like she was complimenting me, and on the other, it was like she had compared all the guys and picked me just because I seemed to have a bright future ahead of me. Well, it must have been disappointing for her after a few years, after we started struggling financially. This clearly wasn't the picture she had in mind when she married me. I could sense her frustration. It especially bothered her when she saw other successful and rich people of our age. She complained oftentimes, but she never thought of getting a job herself and adding to the income. I have an idea, she said one day while we were having breakfast. I heard this from a friend of mine. She said that she keeps her husband's boss impressed by inviting him to dinners regularly, and in return the boss keeps increasing the husband's salary. Why don't we try this too? Maybe your boss will be impressed by us and finally give you the promotion you deserve. I thought about it. It wasn't a bad idea, and there was nothing to lose. It would only foster good relationships with my boss. Sure, we can do that, I told her. I'll invite my boss to dinner today. Make sure you prepare nice dishes. He is a bit picky when it comes to food. Leave that to me, she said confidently. Your boss will surely be impressed by my skills. So I invited my boss to dinner that night. To my surprise, he instantly agreed. I brought him home along with me after office hours. Stacy hadn't been kidding around earlier. She went all out for this dinner and made it as special as she could. Brandon, my boss, seemed pretty impressed by Stacy. But man, did he try to humiliate me in front of my own family. I never knew that he was such a jerk. Stacy, you are so pretty and skilled, he laughed. What are you doing with a guy like Wesley? You can imagine how speechless I was. Stacy didn't say anything either, looking down in embarrassment. I mean, you definitely deserve much more than this. He glanced around my house. Than this humble abode. You must have been popular as a teenager, right? Yes, she was popular, I replied, because Stacy seemed like she was frozen to her spot. And what about you, Wesley? What did you do to make Stacy go for you? He asked with an obvious look of distaste. He was good at academics, Stacy mumbled. At that time, it was the only thing that mattered. Brandon shook his head. He does look like a nerd, who did nothing but spend all day in the library. And how exactly did that matter? I wanted to say it out loud, but decided to keep my mouth shut. He had control over my job, and he knew this very well. That's why he was going on insulting me shamelessly. But whatever, At least Stacy and he got along well. Stacy changed the topic and diverted his attention. He seemed to be enjoying his conversation with Stacy, so I guess the purpose of the dinner was fulfilled. Kinda. And I was right. The next day I was promoted to head of sales. It was almost unbelievable for me because I'd been in the same position for 10 years now. So it definitely had to be last night's dinner that convinced my boss to promote me. Maybe he saw my house and took pity on me and my family. Or maybe he finally realized that I deserve a promotion. However, that was unlikely. The good news was that, along with the promotion, I'd also received a raise. And now, my financial condition was going to be much better, undoubtedly. When I told this to Stacy after going back home, she was on cloud 9. "See, I told you, didn't I?" She asked me happily. "Our plan seems to have worked. Now we just have to keep inviting your boss like this so that you keep getting promoted." I nodded, smiling. "But we will think about that later. Let's go to celebrate tomorrow. It's the weekend, so I don't have to work. We can spend the whole day outside." "Sounds like a plan." Stacy beamed. The next morning, however, as soon as I opened my eyes, I got a call from my boss. "Pack your bags," he said, cutting to the chase. "You're going on a 2-day business trip." "What?" I exclaimed in shock. "Today?" "Yeah, in fact in a few hours," he replied. "Don't be late or you'll miss your flight." "Wait, but how all of a sudden?" I stuttered. "Wesley, weren't you desperate for this promotion?" He sighed. "Now do your job as you were supposed to. Don't expect to slack off now." "I understand," I finally said. He was right. I couldn't protest now. "Why do you sound so upset? Did I interrupt your family plans, Wesley?" he asked mockingly. No, it's all right. I'm packing my stuff. See you at the airport," I said quickly. "You're going alone. You won't be seeing me," he clarified. "Good luck." For a few minutes I sat there feeling numb. What just happened? I understood business trip and everything, but why did it sound like Brandon had some other motive? Stacy woke up and saw me rummaging through my clothes. "What are you doing?" she asked sleepily. "Business trip," I replied without looking up. "I have to leave today." "What about our plans?" she asked sullenly. I sighed. "We will have to cancel that." And after bidding my daughter goodbye, I left. When I returned after 2 days, I was expecting to face a very mad Stacy. She hadn't picked up my calls or answered my texts in 2 days. I thought that she was angry at me for cancelling our plans and going on a business trip. But I was surprised to find her all happy and smiling when I got home. She even talked to me nicely. "You seem to be in a good mood," I commented. "Yeah, I had such a nice weekend," she replied, and then started humming to a tune. I glanced around the house. Everything seemed quite normal, except for a few new and expensive things that were placed on the living room couch. I went to examine them. "Did you go for shopping?" I asked Stacy. "No, they are gifts," she said, then deliberately changed the topic. "How was your trip? How were the facilities? How did the meetings go?" And I successfully got distracted because I was so excited to tell her everything about my trip. When I went to office, Brandon told me to prepare for another business trip. But I just got back," I said weakly. "And?" He raised an eyebrow. "I told you already, you asked for this by wishing to get promoted. Now you have to play the part too." Now how could I argue to that? He had a point. I had to work hard to maintain my position, so I just nodded and got ready to go to my next business trip. But this was not the end of this. Brandon kept sending me on trips and meetings regularly. Most of my time was spent traveling and running to the meetings. For a whole month, I didn't get to see my family. I missed my daughter terribly, and also Stacy. Stacy had told me not to worry about it, and that she wanted me to focus on my work. There was one weird thing about this whole ordeal, though. Whenever I used to get home for a short amount of time, I always saw the house filled with more and more gifts, and even Stacy seemed to be wearing new clothes and stuff. Whenever I asked her about it, though, she would always dodge my questions or change the topic. I didn't think much of it either, because I had a lot of workload, And it wasn't helping that my boss was being a jerk about everything. I wasn't complaining about the job, but the fact that he humiliated me despite my efforts made my blood boil. We were having a meeting one day with the employees of our office present. He called me out in front of everyone for something that wasn't even my fault. When I told this to him, he only got more agitated. "You mean to say that I am lying?" He deadpanned. "I have better works to do, Wesley, unlike you. You just know how to whine and complain about your job. Even after promoting you and raising your salary, you are giving me a hard time. You are never satisfied, are you?" Everyone started sniggering and whispered about me. I never felt so humiliated in my entire life. I didn't understand what his problem was. Why was he doing this? Did he have some sort of grudge against me? I was doing everything in my power to make him happy. When I went home and shared all this with Stacy, she made a face at me. "It must have been your fault, Wesley," she said. "You must have done something wrong. No one will accuse you otherwise." I gave her an incredulous look. "Are you taking my boss's side right now? Did you even listen to me? He is tormenting me on purpose. Because of him, I can't spend time with you guys. Aren't you even slightly upset about it?" "No," she replied. "Work should be first priority for you. Family comes afterward. How are you going to keep us happy if you don't earn enough money?" "Is money everything to you?" I asked. "Don't you ever feel like spending time with me? Did you even miss me while I was away? Look, Wesley, I have other people to keep me company." She shrugged. "There's no need to get so emotional." I didn't say anything after that. I just left her sitting there. I'd at least thought that Stacy would understand me, but even she was not on my side. Well, whatever. I didn't have time to dwell on these things. My work was enough to distract me and keep me busy. Brandon kept sending me to more and more trips. He was basically using me as a slave. I was the one doing all the work that he should have been doing instead, and instead of praising me, he used to insult me. But I kept my head in the game and focused on whatever task I was given. I made sure to give it my 100%, and my efforts paid. Our company's sales went up, and the investors, clients, and everyone else was really happy. The key customers were happy with me, and the investors had good feedback about me. The company's general director heard about this and called me to praise me for my hard work and talent. I couldn't get happier than this. This helped me momentarily forget about the mishaps going on in my personal life. I had dedicated myself entirely to work for now. One day I received a call from the general director himself to come and join him for a secret meeting. It was a highly confidential affair, judging by how only the main shareholders were present, and it was taking place at his mansion, not at our office. Everyone greeted me warmly when I arrived and complimented me for all the hard work I had done in the past few months. I swear, I was feeling so embarrassed because of all the praises I received. But it was the good kind of embarrassment, one which I would gladly take any day over the humiliation I suffered at Brandon's hand. Anyway, the meeting started, and 5 minutes in I got to know what it was all about. Apparently the shareholders were ticked off by the current manager, aka my boss, aka Brandon. According to them, he had been slacking recently and acting weird. "He doesn't fulfill his responsibilities," one of them said. "It seems like he just dumps everything on you. He doesn't even know about anything the company's currently standing," another one said. "I've been receiving a lot of complaints about him. He's not good for our company's image." "And isn't it true that you have been doing all his work recently?" the general director asked me. "If it weren't for you, we might have faced a huge loss." "Yeah, that's after a lot of thinking we have arrived at a conclusion," one of the shareholders said. "We want to fire Brandon and give his position to you." My jaw must have dropped to the floor. "Are you sure?" I asked. "Me? You want to make me the manager?" The director nodded. "Yes, Wesley, don't be so surprised. You have earned it. I wish we had discovered your talents sooner. You are the perfect candidate to be a manager. Let us know whether you want to accept it or not." All of a sudden, thoughts of my wife, my daughter, and all the time I spent away from them started flooding my mind. I recalled how Brandon had embarrassed me at every opportunity he got, and how even Stacy had been against me. If I became the manager, then surely all my suffering would be over. I would never have to worry about money again, and I could keep my family happy. I had a bright future ahead of me after all, so I didn't waste any more time in accepting the offer and said yes. "Perfect," the director said. "We will be holding a meeting tomorrow at the headquarters, and by a majority vote we will fire Brandon and appoint you as the new manager." I couldn't wait to get home and share this news with Stacy. Finally, my dreams were coming true. We would never have to struggle again, and Stacy would be extremely happy when she would know about this. I entered the house and called out Stacy's name, only to receive silence in return. I checked all the rooms to find that Stacy was not there. She had left our daughter alone in the living room. Where did she go so late at night? She was not even answering her phone. I sat down with my daughter and couldn't help but smile when I saw her playing. "I'm going to make sure that you have a better life from now on," I said, patting her head. "I will not be going on business trips anymore. Even if I do, I will have the freedom to take you and your mum with me. We will have a lot of fun from now on." In response to my words, she just stared at me silently, then pointed towards the dining table where a note was kept. I frowned and picked up the note. It was from Stacy. I read the note and felt my whole world shattering. I couldn't breathe for a moment. Apparently, Stacy had found a new man to spend her life with. As a matter of fact, it was my boss, Brandon. She told me how Brandon was the one who had given her all those expensive gifts and spent time with her while I was away on business trips. That's how she had fallen for him. He had also appointed her as his assistant now, and she was going to move in with him. She said she would take our daughter too, and, as a last note, she added that she had pleaded Brandon not to kick me out of my position. I could continue my work as before and go on business trips all year long. So that's what happened behind my back. Now I understood the motives behind all those trips and how Stacy was so happy all the time. Wow, this was some next-level betrayal. I wondered what she would do when Brandon would be kicked out of the office the next day. When I went to the office next morning, I was greeted by Brandon and Stacy, his so-called new assistant. As usual, he mocked me and humiliated me in front of everyone. This time, even Stacy joined him in doing so. "Meet my new assistant," Brandon said, pulling Stacy closer. "Oh, wait, I think you already know her." Stacy laughed out loud. "Come on, Brandon, don't be so mean. Let's go and get ready for your next meeting. I have a good feeling about this. You are definitely getting a promotion, and you will earn even more than you already are." "I know, right?" Brandon smiled. "They said this meeting was about the overperformance of company in recent times. They are definitely impressed by what I do." I had the urge to laugh at his face, but I held it back. He was going to get what was coming for him. Just a few more minutes. The meeting had started, and I was told the company board fired Brandon by a majority vote and chose me as the next manager of the office. The looks on Brandon and Stacy's faces were priceless. It was like their spirit had left their bodies. After the meeting was over and everyone left, I decided to finally talk to Brandon and Stacy and teach them a lesson for running their mouth earlier. Who did they think they were? They should have thought better than to humiliate me. "Brandon," I said, "you are unemployed now. How are you going to survive?" He stayed quiet, looking down towards the floor. I scoffed. "Oh, I have an idea. We have an opening for a janitor's position. How about I employ you for that? It's better than nothing, right?" Brandon had always looked down upon the janitors and cleaners of our office. Hopefully doing their work would teach him a lesson about not belittling anyone and respecting every job. He was so desperate at that moment that he had no option but to accept my offer to become a janitor. He couldn't even lift up his face to meet my eyes. Finally, the tables had turned. "Wesley, listen." Stacy started coming towards me. I raised a hand to stop her and gave her a taunting smile. "You were supposed to be his assistant, right?" I asked. "Don't worry, you can still continue. You can be his assistant and helping him cleaning and mopping. He will certainly need that." She started pleading. "Wesley, please listen to me. It was just—" I shook my head. "It's too late for that. I'm not listening to you anymore. You are free now. I will send the divorce papers through my lawyer soon. Go on and chase after money. That's all that ever mattered to you, right? And as for our daughter, I will make sure that I get her custody. You are not capable of raising her. You are better off working as Brandon's assistant and looking for new ways to get money." And with that, I left, never once turning around. Sure, I had a lot of bad stuff happen to me in my life, but ultimately, it turned out to be for the best. I had got rid of my gold-digger wife, and I was finally at a position in my work that I deserved. I can now provide proper care to my daughter too, so it was a win-win for me. No more toxic people in my life anymore, and that's my story. How do you guys feel about my story? Do you think Stacy and Brandon deserve what happened with them? Let me know your thoughts.